Hello, what's going on? My name is Rich Ryan. Welcome to this TORC Talk. So we are on the week leading into the first U.S. National Series race in Jacksonville, and the map has just been released. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about some ways in which we envision this race going. So I have TORC team member Mark Gaudet and super special guest David Magida here to join me to talk about some different strategies and some tactics that we see that you could use for this race. So this is something we're going to try to do as these races continue to kind of roll out. I hope it's helpful for you. I know it's going to be helpful for the athletes here at TORC. So hope you enjoy it. Here we go. Mark Gaudet, David Magida. All right, gentlemen, thanks for joining today. So you guys did a bit of a drive. Where are you? Like, Mark, where are you guys right now?
We are in Southern Pines, North Carolina, just outside of Fayetteville. We're about, I guess, five and a half hours north of Jacksonville. So about halfway between DC and Jacksonville.
Oh, so that's not a terrible drive you had today. That's like manageable.
We were in the car for like five hours.
Yep, five and a half hours.
Yeah, we had some traffic. It was fine.
Got that DC traffic. So you should be straight shot then tomorrow, right? It should be easy.
Well, we're gonna leave pretty early, so yeah, it should be clean.
Yeah, it should be about 5 hours. We're gonna try to get down there late morning and have a little bit of downtime before the Spartan Cross.
Yeah, I want to talk about the Spartan Cross too, because like looking at this map, it seems like it's going to be pretty predictable where it's going to be. But let's talk about the sprint course first. I mean, that's like the main event. That's what you guys are headed down there for. And the Spartan Cross is a little bit of a bonus. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So when you're looking at this map, first thing, like David, what's like your first impression from this? Because you haven't run this course, right? But you were there.
2019, I was there. I ran around all the terrain and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I guess my first impression of this is there's a lot of running on the front end of this course.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like one of those things where, and it looks like a half mile in, you hit the water, and then everything will bunch up. So people are going to go out hard. It's going to bunch up. And then you got about a mile and a half before bucket to just absolutely let it rip with pretty much nothing in your way but terrain.
So really that's it. And from looking at this, it might be like one nastier spot of terrain. It looks like like you go in the same place the sandbag was last year. And Mark, you remember that start last year, right? Like that, from the start to the number 2, what are they calling that? Are they just calling that water crossing? Oh, it's right. There's a hay wall, I guess, right before it.
Yeah.
How much do you actually think that is? Because like last year, it seemed like it was pretty quick by the time we got to the water. It felt like we were there immediately.
I think you guys hit it in like 2.5 minutes, and then you were in the water for like 2.5.
It seems about right.
Was it that long? Really?
I don't. It definitely wasn't a half mile. I'd say a quarter to a third of a mile. I'd say we were in the water last year.
It was about the 5. I was just watching the replay of the race, and it was like about 5 minutes into the race when guys were exiting the water. 5.5 minutes.
Hopefully it's shorter. Last year, like just looking at the map, and I don't know if it's to scale or not. The map from last year that I've been able to kind of look at, it looks like it's drawn longer, but I don't know if they're just doing this by hand and like it just looks longer, or if it's actually going to be longer or shorter this year.
It looks to me like it's going to be shorter. But that last year, I thought they literally sent the guys like across this lake, as opposed to now it's like you do a little loop and you come back, which is more like reminiscent of the West Virginia water obstacle that they had.
It was almost like an out and back last year, right? And it just kind of went like, it did go and you did take a left and then you spun directly around, where the West Virginia was like a loop last year anyway. That was the worst. That was the craziest thing ever. So yeah, you're right though. But like looking at this from like, say that is, say that's just under a half a mile. Like say it's like 600 meters to get to the water. And then after that, there's basically no obstacles.
Well, I'm trying to decide if it sends you through the water a second time, right before obstacle 3.
I see.
I'm trying to decide if that's in the water or adjacent, but it doesn't really change your game plan.
Rich, am I reading this right? That this looks very similar to the start from last year, and that
yeah.
That dog leg back in the woods is where Z-Wall was last year, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so if we're running the same path, it is right along the water.
Okay.
We didn't go back in, but this is exactly where we started last year. Like right about 3 was just before we hit the monkey bars, right?
Yeah, monkey bars looks like around that first turn where it says mile 1.
Yeah.
Because I think we went around that. So when you get out of those woods there, those woods are a little bit nasty. There was some mud and the footing's not great, but it's not that bad. And then when you come out, it's like groomed. It's
I think the Super's got some of the nastier terrain, like in those deeper woods.
It looks like that. It looks like the 2019 Super.
Yeah. If that's getting back in there, that's close to where we did the sandbag carry last year. That's going to be pretty marshy terrain back there on the Super course.
And then everything between mile 2 and mile 3 is like wide open. Like just, it's going to be dry and fast there.
I agree. And I remember it be like, it looks right where, so let's back up a little bit, right, and hit that, like, where the sandbag was last year, where it's right by number 13 when you come out to hurdles. That was pretty nasty. I remember that being, also uncomfortable because there was a sandbag on my back, but the footing was like not great. I feel like it'd be tough to run back there. Mark, what do you think about it? Like going over it? Because that looks identical.
Yeah, I think if I remember, it was kind of uneven footing, standing water, kind of up to like over the ankles, splashing around, periods of like kind of sticky, slippery mud. So it's kind of ones where you try to hug the side along the wood line and stay dry as long as possible, and then you just gotta just go for it on some of those areas where there's no avoiding it and just plow through the water.
Yeah, David, what have you found in those type of conditions? Like, what do you think is a good approach when it's like muddy and like you're not really sure which each step is going to be, and like it's like maybe good mud versus definitely worse mud? Like, how do you make that call?
I mean, the reality is this race is so fast that you can't be like hesitating on that stuff. So I think the biggest thing is I told him, I just tell myself all the time on these type of courses, cadence, like turnover. Like I'm just looking for, you might lose the length of stride, but you don't have to lose your turnover. And that's going to help you kind of stay stable through that nasty stuff.
That's smart. Like keeping that foot underneath your hip a little bit, like with that faster turnover can get there. And it should help with the power output too, and make it a little bit easier to get through it. So like we were saying, like just be decisive, just wherever you are, don't worry about it and just run hard. And then another kind of obstacle with those hurdles coming out. And then it's pretty runnable at that part. Last year, I remember it being muddy coming out of that nasty part, but it's not covered by trees. You're out in the open. That's kind of where they were able to pick up back on like the video feed a little bit. This next part's new. Do you think that whole loop is the bucket?
Over by 14?
It looks like. I think it is.
I think it's a huge bucket carry. So we're looking at like a quarter mile maybe.
Yeah. So
I think they had because remember, like there's no sandbag. So they're probably going to double down on the bucket.
It makes sense. Do you like that move? Is that smart? Is that a good compromise?
I mean, in reality, like if it's a 600-meter bucket or something like that, like what's harder? Like 2 300-meter carries or 1 600-meter carry?
Yeah.
The long one's the one that'll crush people.
Totally.
So I think it's awesome. I think it's pretty badass.
I think it's also needed with how tight everyone's going to still be at that point. I mean, I think we'll be probably broken into a couple different packs by that point, but I think something's needed right there, and bucket will probably do that if you go over a quarter mile of separating the field a little bit before we get down into that gauntlet of obstacles.
Right. You don't want everybody coming to the spear at the same time, right? Like it needs to have something like break it up. And that could be some nasty footing looking at it from this angle. I'm not sure. I don't remember what that looked like visually, but maybe it's nasty footing. Or actually, Mark, we may have done our cool down on that road, and it might be pretty. Remember when we did that big loop last year? We kind of came around this way.
Yeah, we were definitely in that area.
And that was pretty flat. That was like dirt road too.
Mm-hmm. Is that water that it's going around, or is that just no?
Can't really tell.
It's really hard to say what some of these things are.
It might just be farm. I don't think that's water. I don't necessarily remember, but doesn't really look like it. So do you think is it a race to the bucket? Like,
I think for me it is.
I think it is for me too. I mean, I think for people that are that like running is their strength as opposed to obstacles, like they're just trying to put as much damage to the field as possible in that time. And then the people who are like very obstacle proficient, it's like you're basically hoping to not be redlined by the time you get to the obstacles.
Yeah. Like I'm with you. If I was going to run this race, I would be running as hard as I possibly could to get there and just like worrying about it when it happens. But
because like if you explode, odds are so is everybody else around you. So
and right, but like you guys are going to be the two of the fastest runners in the field. You know, I would expect it to be, you two. Woods might see that as an opportunity, but Kempson's going to be able to kind of hang there. I don't know. BJ's fast. Yeah. So, yeah. So that's just going to be, and when you get to that bucket, what do you think? Like, you going to hammer?
Yeah. I mean, I think from that point forward, you kind of sell out, right? I think you just, we're basically like, oh, you sell out the first 2 miles, then you sell out the bucket. I mean,
you run fast at the beginning, fast in the middle, and then run fast at the end.
You're good to go. It's like how you run an 800, right? There's like a coast somewhere in there, but it's no. I mean, I think the reality is like there are a lot of obstacles in the last mile and a quarter of this race, and those are hard, but at the same time, like you'll catch your breath on a lot of those. So like if you're gassed when you get to them, that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And at that point, like it would be hard to catch people who aren't making mistakes. You know?
Yeah. I think if you get separated, if you lose contact with like who you're supposed to be racing in this one, your goose is cooked. Like you're going to have a really hard time reeling anybody back in.
Yeah, I think you're right.
The only time that I'd say I don't think that's true is like before you hit the water, because like we will all bunch up.
Yeah, that's going to bunch up immediately. So like that start, it's going to be almost like just getting in position, like and trying not to burn too much, just because you're going to get it's going to go so slow, so fast. Mm-hmm. And then it starts to. So when a course is set up like this, David, have you ever seen a course this dense in one spot like this?
No, I mean honestly, no. I can't think of some. I think you were saying what Fort Benning was like that.
So Fort Benning was pretty similar, where they had like an airstrip last few hundred meters, where it was just like the gauntlet of 90% of the obstacles that we ran for best ranger. And I think Asheville in 2019 a little bit like this, where a lot of running, and then it was just like 10 obstacles back to back to back in the last half mile.
Yeah.
But
yeah, you don't see this very often.
I mean, if you even look at it, it's like if bucket's 14, then you got 15 and 16, which are
inverted wall
and Atlas. Okay. After that, it's really everything else for the entire race in the last like 3/4 of a mile, which is really nuts.
Because even the obstacles that are before this, because sometimes you'll see something like even last year where there was Z-wall and monkey bars out and other like breaking up the obstacles before the bucket. They're not really even obstacles, This is like straight up run. So like sometimes you'll get an obstacle somewhere.
The grip stuff is all crammed into one mix. It's hoist and then cargo spear, right? Plate drag, multi-rig, tire flip, Z-wall, and then you come out of the barbed wire with muddy hands immediately into the monkey bars. So it's like a bunch of grip together, and then like if they put that barbed wire crawl on the uphill, that big uphill that's all muddy, then we could have absolute carnage on those monkey bars.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that. Like spray down or something. Like it's going to be wet-ish. And that's like weird sand that doesn't.
It's like turns to like this slippery clay, mud stuff, like dunks up your hands.
Yeah. That's true. That's interesting. And that's like, what is that? Maybe less than a quarter mile. No, I guess about a half mile from the finish.
Yeah. I mean, really, it's just like, and then if you can get through the Z wall before that without any problems, the monkey bars seem like the only thing that could be an issue just because of the mud on your hands. But
yeah, that's an interesting point. And we're thinking this is like this because Spartan Cross, like this is the Spartan Cross course, right? Like
from what I've gathered about what Spartan Cross is going to have, like I know there's a vertical cargo net. I know there's a hoist, a rope climb, and a plate drag. I know those are guaranteed obstacles on the course. So that would make sense.
So if it starts at Herc hoist 18, you skip the spear and you skip the fire jump, I think that's 10 obstacles.
Yeah, 10 or 11. And they're expecting 10 or 11 each lap. So that actually makes the most sense for the Spartan Cross loop. And the loop for Spartan Cross is going to be, I believe it's like 1,100 meters a lap. So
yeah, I think that would kind of work if it just kind of hugs back up around there, because that's runnable. You kind of run through there on the race.
And is that the motocross course, right? So is that all rolling hills the whole time? Because it doesn't look like it on the elevation profile. You see like one bump and that's it.
So leading Mark last year after the spear, right? When we went around a turn and we beelined it down to the bucket, and the bucket was where 23 and 24 are now, but just kind of like, it was just like a notch out to the side. That was pretty flat after the spear. You right? Like you don't hit the mogul stuff until after what looks like the Z wall.
And by moguls, we mean like 3 of them, right? It's not like a lot of them.
It's not 3 or 4.
4 or 5, I would say.
Yeah, it goes up like maybe 2 between 24 and 25, and maybe if 25 is one.
There's one big one, right? But the question is whether you run it or crawl.
We crawled it last year.
Yeah,
that was the biggest one. It's hard for me to kind of like think about it.
That's the biggest one by a lot. But they've been teasing us. Garfield's been teasing like, oh, this got some elevation here. All we need is some barbed wire. Like, I feel like he's not going to barbed wire it this year because he's just trying to like mess with people, because that's very Garfield.
I mean, I think do you think in terms of placement for a race, like how it would affect the race, it would matter uphill versus flat? Or you think the people who are going to crawl fast on the flat will still crawl fast uphill? Like, does it matter for tactics?
You can't roll.
Can't roll. So if you're good at rolling, what do you guys like better? Do you like it better up? I don't necessarily think I roll well or crawl that well.
It's the only hill of the course. They're going to take it away to crawl it.
Right.
I didn't think it was any worse crawling uphill last year. I didn't think it was that bad.
I didn't think so either. And have it being like soft isn't bad.
Yeah.
And then I guess the only other real logical thing is like the spear. I mean, David, you brought up a good point about the monkey bars being after the barbed wire crawl. So that does seem like it's going to be the biggest problem, right?
Especially because like how many people just came out of like nasty muddy hands and all gripped that bar. You know, like how big a problem is that going to be if you're like the 10th guy to get there versus the first?
Right.
I don't know. But I mean, again, like it's the monkey bars, you know, you can take your reverse grip if you need to, and you
chicken wing it. Yeah,
I guess.
And one other thing that I saw, the tire flip, Mark, you were talking about you're pumped to see the tire flip here. What do you think that surface is going to be like? Because the tire flips, you would imagine it could be a problem in a climate like Florida, but like there is a lot of like sand and gravel at this venue. And like Florida has that weird grass anyway, just like that spiky kind of weird grass that you can kind of get under. Like, how do you think this is going to be a problem?
I don't think so. I saw the pictures of it. It looked like it was on some pretty nice dry grass or sand. If it's sand, you just dig your hands into the sand and get under it, and it will be no problem at all. I don't think the pinch grip's even going to be required for this one.
Plus, it's going to be dry all week. It's not raining all week, so
and there's no water.
Yeah. You remember it was Seattle a few years ago where like was one of the venues where like no one could flip the tire, and I think West Virginia
has been a problem. Yeah.
But a lot of that has to do with like, if the earth is really soft, then the tire gets flipped. And when it lands on the other side, it embeds itself in the soft earth. But if it doesn't have that, it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's gonna be fine. So, I mean, I don't know. And there's not much you can really do in terms of strategy for that. Like, are you guys going to have like an idea of like a strategy, like, you don't say like what that strategy is leading into it, but are you going to think about different ways to approach from like A-frame cargo to the finish? Or is it just going to be like, I just need to get through all this stuff?
I mean, at that point, it's kind of just like balls out, right?
Yeah. I think I have a specific strategy from that point on. At that point, it's just get to the finish.
You know, I told Mark that for him, you know, he's basically as fast as anybody in the field. I can't think of anybody who can cover 5K of running really faster than him. So he needs to basically be trying to dictate the pace to the other top athletes. And, you know, if he goes in knowing, well, you know, VJ and, you know, guys like VJ and Kempson, they're pretty smooth when it comes to some of these obstacles. Like, you don't want to be getting caught in this gauntlet at the end side by side with those guys. Like, try and gap them if you can.
I agree. I wouldn't leave it up to that last gauntlet against those guys, or like hope that they miss their spear. Like, yeah. If most people want to beat those dudes, like, you got to be ahead of them after the spear.
And that's how I'm approaching, like, anyone that I want to beat. I'm basically looking at it like I want to bury those guys in the first 2.5 miles.
So what's going to separate it? Like, last year it was clear, like the sandbag was like the separator, and like the even like the Z-wall early kind of like separated some of the pack. But after the sandbag, like Atkins had made his move, and then, you know, Aaron made a crazy move during that as well. He moved like up like 6 spots or something like that. So it was a place to kind of move around. Do we think it's going to be the bucket? Like, is that going to be the race?
I think that's where we start to see people separate. I think some people are going to be able to hang with the top couple of packs until they get to the bucket. And then I think the bucket will separate kind of the pretenders at that point. And I think there's going to be, you know, slow separation between everyone just getting through the obstacle from the last mile. I think that's what's going to come down to, but I think it's going to be really tight. We might even see a closer grouping between the top 10 this year than we did last year. What was it, a minute? Was it like less than a minute and a half last year between?
Yeah, something like that.
First and 10th. I think we're going to see it even tighter this year.
I mean, especially because Atkins isn't there, right? And you know, as much as everyone's talking about how this is like not as deep a field as last year, like in many regards, it's deeper. You're missing 2 or 3 of the top 10 guys, but only one of the top 5 guys. And then you're adding some extra guys back into the field. Like Bracken wasn't there last year and he's coming back. And there's a lot of guys who have improved from last year. Like Mark's much better.
Yeah. You're back. Nick Riker's going to be improved, ready to rock. Like all those guys who were like 11 to like 13, 14, they're all going to be better. You know?
Exactly.
And if there's anybody else that can bring, I agree. Like, yeah, because Atkins isn't here. Like, you know, Kent's not coming, right? But like everybody else is going to be there.
Brent wasn't here last year, man.
Oh, that's right. That's
right.
So,
you know, like it's not that different a field from last year. You're missing Newell, Johnny, Hosek, and Atkins are like really the only players not there. But and Veerman, who wasn't here last year.
He wasn't here last year.
So it's a very similar race to last year. Plug and play a couple different guys.
Totally. And like, yeah, and I like to Mark's point, like, yeah, I think that the depth of field that will continue to like, it'll be really, really tight. Like, I think that we'll see that for sure.
I think the top 5, like you've got like 4 or 5, like tier 1 guys, and then like a lot of tier 2, like tier 2, tier 3 extends like another 15, 20 guys. So you know, it's going to be interesting to see where people really stack up on a very different course than the rest of the season.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's gonna be fun to watch. I mean, like this might be easy. Like last year wasn't bad the way they kind of set it all up. So I'm definitely excited for this. Yeah. What else? Anything else jump out? Do you like the course? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think for both of us, it's a really good course. We've been spending so much time running 5Ks every weekend.
Right.
that opening up with 2 miles and then getting some more distance in between obstacles after the bucket, it's like, it's kind of a dream come true course. And then right when you're exploding, you get to catch your breath on all the obstacles.
Right. Cool. And like, how you guys feeling about Spartan Cross? Are you guys looking forward to it? You guys are both doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think personally, you know, the last half mile really is what's going to likely dictate this race for me. So getting to run through it 3 times on Friday is going to be quite the confidence boost.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, seriously.
That's definitely going to help as long as our hands aren't like ripped to pieces. I think it's going to be great. I mean, Spartan Cross as a concept is going to be really fun. You know, just think motocross meets obstacle racing. It's pretty dope. And, you know, especially if we're not doing burpees and there's no spear and it's like really just like who's got the fitness.
Let's go.
Dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty dope.
Lay it down.
But yeah, I mean, we're not going to all out that, you know, we're probably going to like 80% it. And I'm sure like if VJ runs, he'll just, you know, blaze through that thing. But like, we're not trying to, you know, kill ourselves. We're just, they wanted us to demo it. And basically Watson reached out to me and asked me if I was interested in demoing this course. And I didn't even know it was going to be like a 6-man thing until like he told me later. But then I said, yeah, I'm in. And then I said, I'm traveling down with Mark. And he said, does Mark want to do it? Yeah. So yeah, why not? Let's get some practice.
Sweet. Yeah, I think it's a perfect way to kind of put it like that. And when you look at this though, it doesn't seem like, cause there's no, like twister or anything. I think your hands are going to be fine too. Cause that's what I was concerned about. Like if like it was like twister, monkey bars, rig, and like there was 3 or 4 of these things and you had to do them all, but this isn't that.
Well, you know, 3 plate drags, 3 rope climbs, 3 hoists, 3 monkey bars, 3 multi-rigs. That's a lot of grip. So I do think if you're running it all out, your grip will wear out. I don't know that your hands are going to peel apart, but your grip is definitely going to be tired.
Yeah.
Sure.
I guess when I think about it, I'm more familiar with ripping my hands on like pull-up bars and stuff like that. But I don't know what it's like to have that much volume on like pulling ropes. So that's a good point.
Up, man.
Yeah,
ropes,
it's a good point.
Think about like coming down a rope climb fast or doing a Tyrolean traverse, you know, like that'll eat your skin.
I have a scar on my leg from my first Spartan race in like 2016 from the first traverse, just like yanking myself over like a dummy.
I have scars from 2012.
I can't imagine. Well, cool, fellas. I think we wrapped this up pretty good, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this thing throws down. I think it's going to be really fun and fast. A race to that bucket, and then just run fast, and then just keep running and don't miss any obstacles. Like,
I mean, is there really any more? Like maybe the big key is don't like blow your wad in the first 800 meters of this course, and then run fast from there on out.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't like it's going to be hard. It's like Mark's. I don't think it's even 800 meters. Like I don't even think you can blow yourself up from the start to the water, and the water's so slow. Like Mark and I came out of it last year and we were sprinting, like. So I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, just get in position. Don't get disqualified somehow, like, and then get out and run real well.
Don't get lost. I know a lot about that.
Especially Rich and I together.
Oh yeah, at Palmerton. Oh my goodness, but that was like a trail one. David, have you gotten lost on Spartan races before?
Like more times than anyone in the history of Spartan race.
They used to have those weird like streamers that you had to follow in the woods, right? Like because they were hard to follow. It happened to me once in Jersey.
The woods, like you'd stop and you'd be like, there, like.
It was great. Yeah, like how far have I been on this wrong course? Like, did I just cut half of it? I have no idea where I am.
The first Spartan race I ever won was in Florida, in Miami, and I crossed the finish line, and then second place crossed the finish line, and then no one else crossed the finish line for like 12 more minutes, and we were like, uh-oh. And we got DQ'd 10 minutes before the award ceremony for missing a part of the course.
It's like we would have given it to you if you didn't cheat really bad, but you did.
Yeah. So yeah, we know a little something about that.
Yeah. So I think everybody's in the clear on this one. Sweet fellas. All right. Well, I'm gonna hit stop on this. But everybody out there is racing. I hope this is helpful. I hope you get out there and kill it. See you later.
Thanks, Rich.
See you, dude.